you've worked with a lot of, like I mentioned, a lot of like top songs and stuff, and even from top artists, but then also songs that didn't end up going anywhere from top artists. So I'm
Yeah, yeah.
curious, in your perspective, what makes quote unquote the hit song? What makes the song that from the same artist? Of course, the age old question. If we knew the
Yeah,
answer, we'd all be.
that's
I
right.
mean, granted, I think Max Martin kind of knows the answer, but
Yeah, he batting average is high for
yeah.
sure.
But still, like in your perspective, what makes a song stand out?
Man, I have a big answer.
I'm ready for it. Let's see what we got.
So let me attack the business side of my answer, and then I'll attack the art side of my answer. The business side of my answer is that once a song goes out into the universe, whether you have a major label or whether you're a person in your house that's going to put it on YouTube or whatever, once it goes out there into the universe to be consumed, right? It is such a bizarre, unquantifiable equation of like the stars aligning and the right place at the right time, and how it maybe contrasts to what else is happening in the universe, and all the, I mean, musically, all these kinds of, in my opinion, kind of unknown variables. But the bottom line is a lot of stars have to align from a business standpoint to go be a hit.
Hmm.
Now, I could also ask you, well, what is your definition of a hit? Because I can give you examples of, there's an artist named Maren Morris that I've worked on her
Sure.
records for a long time. And, the first release she ever had was a song called My Church.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still one of her biggest songs. It from a sales perspective, she still plays it at the end of her shows every night. It has undeniably resonated with the people. On the charts, that song died at number 14. It was not a number one hit, right?
Hmm.
In terrestrial radio. So there's cases like that where, I'm like, well, are we basing on if it was successful, like based on, its reaction, based on awards it might have won, critical response. I mean, she won a Grammy for My Church,
Yeah.
and it died at 14.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's very interesting. All these
so
different levels of success. Where
yeah,
are you looking? That's very
so so
interesting.
so that's first and foremost is what are we going to call a hit song? And yeah, there's
Yeah.
obvious, like, you can say, yeah, Uptown Funk was a huge hit song, right? Like
Sure.
undeniably at every measurable metric.
Sure.
But for the rest of the mortal songs, there's varying ways to gauge what you think was a hit, or what was I would even say what was a successful release
Mm-hmm.
for you. Because while that song may not have been a number one on charts, it undeniably catapulted Marin's career and
Sure.
was a successful release. That's my business answer. On the art answer, what makes a hit song is I'm back to this idea of like, there's a producer mentor of mine, guy here in town that has worked on a lot of big, huge records. And his joke line is production is overrated, because he says the vast majority of music fans are going to just say, do I like the song? Do I like the singer? That's kind of
Yeah.
it, right? And so what I glean from that is that what you're really looking for is a listener to feel a sort of authenticity from what's being presented to them.
Mm-hmm.
And, I could say examples of, like, I loved that, the Bruno Mars 24 Karat album thing, right? And, it's super throwback, and, like, you listen to it, and if you were a kid that was around in the 90s, like, you're like, oh my God, this is all that stuff. And I think part of the reason that album was so successful and had those hits was because it was authentic to Bruno and the guys making that record. And he chose collaborators that like loved that music and were from that era and got that. And it's like actually in their DNA. They weren't like doing it as some sort of like magic trick or something, or like chasing some sound, right? They also weren't chasing something that was happening. They're like, we're going to make this record that's this shit that we love, right?
Yeah.
And I think whether you're talking about, Chris Stapleton playing a song with an acoustic guitar and very, minimal production, or you're talking about the slickest, most like super produced, even we talk about something like Max Martin, like, even if some of those songs aren't necessarily the most like lyrically compelling, right? You believe that like the people were having fun making that record, and that like sonically, like he's grabbing all the right gears because he's the guy, and like you went to the source, right? It's all those sorts of kinds of things. And I think that's a reason that there are genres of music, because I think that you can be compelled and feel authenticity in the song Back in Black as you can, a Lady Gaga track,